side of the virtual hardwood, it's the NLSC podcast, episode number 411. Andrew with you once again. I am Andrew in the forum and Andrew NLSC on Twitter. My co-host is Derek. You know him in the forum as Deeper3, and he's also Deeper384 on Twitter. So Derek, we have another couple of guests this week. Not Josh and Dave this time.
Oh, this is extremely exciting. These guys run the NBA Live 2001 highlights account on Instagram, and they're regular contributors to the NLSC Top 10 Plays of the Week, and they have absolutely fantastic commentary over their highlights. They get really into the games that they play. Roger, Nate, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having us, man.
Yes, thank you.
So, NBA Live 2001, very controversial release in the NLSC community, at least on PC. But you guys, huge fans, and very skilled on the sticks.
Yeah, we really take it next level. We try to play with all 29 or 30 teams, whatever there is, and
29.
And yeah, I mean, we've had a lot of interaction with some NBA players on the Instagram pages as far as them like reposting and kind of liking the old content and stuff. So that's been cool. Greg Ostertag, Bobby Jackson, Jim McElvain, Sean Marion. We've had some Instagram and Twitter reactions with. So that's been cool.
You know, you go back and, the NBA players were playing these games, like the early live games and whatnot. And the NBA Live series was obviously the most popular and the biggest at the time. I believe I saw one of the NBA player interactions on one of your posts, and I thought, wow, this is really cool. So you know that they're appreciating the content and going back and kind of they have nostalgia for it, kind of like we do.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we've been playing this game for 20 years. Like, it's so funny. These players are in their 20s and 30s back in 2001, and now they're retired in their 50s. They have nothing to do, but they're still all over Twitter and Instagram. And they don't have the followers like today's players do. So it's funny to tag them, and they like instantly look at it. And it's just funny to us because these were our heroes and idols when we were kids. And now they're just normal guys.
Yeah, we saw Greg Ostertag has like a horse farm or a cow ranch or something. And he, 600 Instagram followers, and, finds the time to see our posts and ask us who won and stuff like that. That's always funny to see.
It's really cool. I mean, I once posted a screenshot of D Brown and didn't actually tag him, but did the hashtag D Brown, and he must have been searching himself because he ended up liking the post and commenting on it. So, but it is really cool to get that interaction with these players we grew up watching. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's always nice to get feedback. It definitely, at least for me, motivates me to keep playing and take that extra hour to edit highlights or make a post just to see if anyone will react or respond. But it feels like it's worth it.
Yeah, we've gone through phases where we've played other games, like as you've seen in NBA Live 2002. We've messed with the 2K series a little bit, some of the newer ones, and obviously some of the old ones too. But we always circle back to NBA Live 2001.
NBA Live 2006, for like a year ago, we played that for a couple nights in a row before we got kind of tired of it. Went back to 01.
Yeah, it's just not the same. We can't pull off the same BS.
Yeah. Notice how I didn't swear. Good job there.
No, actually, I think the bleeping out of your swears during, when I'm editing the top 10 and, when I post it and whatnot is one of the highlights of the top 10. I think the bleeps are absolutely hilarious, and I love how into it Roger gets. And I love his emotion that he ties to the game, because it reminds me of all of my gaming sessions with my two brothers. There's a lot of swearing, and there's a lot of intense moments and whatnot, and there's also a lot of fun. I did want to ask both of you, so what is it about NBA Live 2001 that just keeps you going back? What makes it the game of choice? I've seen you dabble with Live 2002. I know that we're going to have some Live 2002 highlights from you folks, Chris Webber dunks in the next NLSC top 10. But what is it about that game that you guys are so obsessed with?
So this is Nate. NBA Live 2001 was the first basketball video game I ever played on PC back when it came out. And I just loved it so much, like creating players, looking at all the players' ratings. It just was like my first impression. So it obviously stuck with me. And then I didn't play basketball video games again until NBA Live 2004. And I really liked that game a lot too. And I went through 04 to 08. I bought all those games for PS2 and played them all. And about right after I graduated high school, Roger and I wanted to play 01 again, to play it like when we were kids. And then from that moment on, I'm like, this is my favorite game. So I've always come back to it since then.
Yeah, I mean, we started playing it on our parents' desktop PCs in Nate's basement, actually. And one of us would play on a keyboard, and one of us would have like one of those kind of like a PS2 controller, USB.
The Wingman Rumble Pad.
The Wingman Rumble Pad.
Oh, yes. I was going to say the Gravis gamepad, but no, Wingman. Absolutely, yeah.
We played in your computer room at your house. Was in your parents' bedroom.
Yeah.
So you could only play certain times of the day.
It wasn't the ideal setup.
But it was like 2000. Like, desktop computers weren't like the mainstream thing yet.
Well, your parents had a little more space and money. You got the first edition of 01, and then I had to wait a couple weeks. I had to wait for Christmas, but Nate's parents had the excess cash to give it to their favorite child.
We both played it the same, just because I got it first.
Well, you got an early start, so I think that's why maybe you have a better winning percentage. I mean, that's just my opinion. We'll have to go back and check.
Played it first on PS2, though. That's undeniable.
That is true.
So anyway,
60-40, right? So Nate wins 60% of the time, roughly. Is that what it was?
That's Roger's interpretation, and that's probably what it has been the last 6 months. But I recently did a deep dive starting in the beginning of 2021 and went through all the games I put on YouTube, and the percentage was a little more 65 for 35, maybe 69-31.
A couple bad seasons,
but that was just we went through a tough season where Roger had some tough matchups. But more recently, it's been even. I mean, even being 60-40.
Yeah, I've been figuring out similar ways to manipulate the game like you do. Drawing fouls on 3-point shots, and getting to the charity stripe a little bit more.
Yeah, it's a game of momentum. Like that first 10-point lead in the first quarter, it's really hard to recover from that, especially if you're an inferior team.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely depends on the matchup.
That's part of the fun with those older games, though, right? Is like the manipulation of it and finding every edge that you possibly can. I remember playing NBA Fast Break 98, and there was, which is also NBA Action 98, which is in different regions. But there was this play. It was, the announcers would go with a move only he could make with Grant Hill, and there was a spot on the floor right around the elbow area where if you hit the drive button, he would just dunk it no matter what. And you're always just trying to find a way to get to that spot, and just destroy your opponent over and over again with that move. What would you say, for both of you, what is the ultimate cheese in NBA Live 2001? What is like the go-to that is just the most like really tough to stop?
So there are certain players that if the computer is guarding a corner 3 shot, they won't jump. So like, for example, Rashard Lewis, Aaron McKee are like 2 pretty good 3-point shooters. And you have to basically play user defense on those guys to get a hand in their face, because the computer won't jump and they'll make like 60% of the corner 3-point shots. So knowing which guys don't cause a reaction from the computer is huge, because that's you're hitting 60% of those corner threes that you're going to run up the score real quick.
NBA Live 2001 made all of my video game impressions think that if I get the ball and I pump fake, the computer's going to jump and I can just run around him and dunk or get an open shot. Yep. So like the pump fake is just the go-to. Like the ball comes to me, immediate pump fake, see if I can get the CPU to jump. And if you're not user covering the pump fake, it just is a really good way to exploit CPU defense. It's
an especially tough game to play one-on-one user defense with too, because certain guys, like an Allen Iverson, Kevin Garnett, they're just so physically superior, they can just blow right by you if you're not, doing the exact right thing.
Yeah, I think the biggest cheese is definitely pump fakes, and corner threes with certain players can just be unstoppable. Oh, and
we've gotten into this thing where we start to shoot around the half court line. if one of the computer players is, or a person that your user guarding is near you, just to kind of draw like a cheese 3-point.
There's so many 3-point shooting fouls when we play.
That sounds like James Harden. Guys, don't do that. I hate that about today. That James Harden jump into the defender, get the BS call.
See, we do that, but we also do it 70 feet from the basket. Because if Roger presses double team and I see two guys running at me, they're coming at you so hard, the computer just run into you when you shoot.
That's the risk of the full court press. Like in 02, that doesn't happen.
No, in 02 you don't get that cheese foul.
It's like a specific NBA Live 2001 thing. So that's one of the many things we manipulate in that game.
But we're not going to turn fouls down just to get rid of that. It's like the fouls have always stayed at the default.
Yeah,
50-50.
We haven't messed with the preferences or anything probably since we started playing. I mean,
we do take off illegal defense though.
Yeah, so it's just
because the defense is the offense. It's so hard to score in 01 that's just one advantage we wanted to give the offense. So for some reason, we have to take off illegal defense. I don't remember if I just didn't understand it as a kid, but we've never played with illegal defense on.
It was before there was a defensive 3 seconds, so we don't have a defensive 3 second order and illegal defense is off. So it kind of keeps the game a little more open.
Andrew and I mess with the sliders and stuff and whatnot to try to optimize the game experience. Andrew, did you mess with those with NBA Live 2001?
So what I was doing with Live 2001, because on PC, as I said, it was received pretty poorly in the NLSC community. Because I think a lot of us were also playing against the CPU rather than, as you guys are doing, playing against each other. And it's such a different experience. And the big thing that people were doing at the time was tweaked rosters, which is adjusting all the ratings, mass adjustments to the ratings to try and fix the problems, get them more realistic, whatever. So that's probably what I was doing the most of, putting the formulas into the Live 2001 toolkit and making these mass adjustments to the rosters. To this day, looking back on it, I think it was probably mostly a placebo effect, to be honest, because changing those ratings only does so much to the underlying mechanics. But no, that's what I was adjusting back in the day, just these mass ratings. And we all thought it worked, except it messed up franchise mode because the generated rookies had different ratings. But yeah, we tried.
Yeah, it was a good strategy. I mean, and I guess did the ends justify the means? Like, did you said it was placebo, but could you notice anything different from doing that?
I personally couldn't, but a lot of people in the community felt it was. So I with my rosters, I did a tweaked and untweaked version, so you could just load whichever version you wanted and play with it. So I offered both, and some people seemed to prefer the tweaked version. We did that for 2003 as well. Then 2004 brought in sliders, so it was no longer necessary. So, but yeah, people just didn't like 2001. But it is funny because you go back and look at the comments. I'll need to upload our original forum. You can see some of those comments when I do that. Just people saying, like, even Live 2000, which is considered a classic these days, and was a few years after it came out, so many people saying there's all these problems, and I'm just thinking, man, if you could just see what we get, come Live 07 or Elite 11, how good we had it in the early 2000s with NBA Live. It's kind of funny, but so it's really cool that you guys are still sticking with that game, and I do love that you have that as a favorite, and I think we all have that game that we go back to that. Almost like comfort food sometimes, but I do love seeing your highlights, obviously our top 10, but following you on Instagram as well, and voting in the polls, and sometimes I get them right.
Yeah, we appreciate you guys too. I mean, it's such a niche game, and but you see it a lot on your guys' page too. People going back and playing 2K14, some games that you hold in high regard. So we kind of take it to the next level, going all the way back 20 years, but we see it on your guys' end too.
Absolutely, we love it.
I love it. No, I listen. I do the top 10 every week because I love it. Like, it's definitely niche. It's definitely not viewed. It doesn't go viral or anything like that. But I love seeing people play these old games and actually have fun with the games. You know what I mean? There's so many complaints about the new games and whatnot and the online scene and how toxic it is and everything. It's just nice to see people go back and, like you and Nate and Roger, like you guys, go back and actually enjoy these games and have fun and have real competition and whatnot. And I love posting those highlights. I do have a question though for both of you, and I don't know who made the shot with Matt Bullard, but I keep going back to this highlight in my head, and part of it drives me nuts. Part of it, I think it's the coolest thing ever. So I see Hakeem Olajuwon. This is a highlight that was submitted for the NLSC top 10 by Nate and Roger. I see Hakeem Olajuwon in the game. It's a close game. They need a buzzer shot to win. And I see Hakeem Olajuwon, them go into the sub screen and rip out the dream for Matt Bullard. Matt Bullard comes in and hits, I want to say, a fadeaway mid-range shot for the game winner. Do I have that right? Is that what
Yeah.
happened in that highlight? Okay.
Yeah.
So video game legend Matt Bullard now, just because of that one shot. What was going through your mind to rip out Hakeem Olajuwon, one of the greatest centers of all time, for Matt Bullard in that moment?
Well, I wanted to put as many shooters on the floor as possible, and I believe I already had Walt Williams, Coutinho Mobley, Shandon Anderson, and Steve Francis on the floor. So I just wanted Nate to not know who I was going to throw it to, and Matt Bullard's 6'10", and he's going to be able to at least get the shot off.
Height makes such a difference in 01. Like, being a couple inches taller than the guy guarding you, you just have a way better chance of making that shot.
And I believe his 3-point rating is it's like a 92 or something.
He's in the top 5 for 3-point shooting. I think it's 92.
Yeah, and he has a decent field goal rating too. So I just wanted the best shooter to take the last shot.
I think I was up 1, or was it tied, and then you made it 2.
I want to say you're up 1, but yeah, that was one of our many game-ending buzzer beaters we've had over the last year.
At the end of the game, less than 5 seconds or whatever, and you call timeout in 01. They advance the ball to half court, and your players run the same play every time, where the center will stay at the top of the key, maybe around 17 feet. Everybody will be outside the perimeter, and then the point guard will come to you and then make a cut. It's like the same play every time. So there's like a couple options there. They're pass to the point guard or the center, and Roger chose the center where Bullard was at. And there's nothing I could have done. I could have fouled him, I guess. But
I mean, the better player made the better play to win the game, and that's basically what it boils down to.
I guess so. At that point I was so happy I made the shot before. I don't even remember just taking the lead. I think I was so pumped up that I was going to win.
I'm sure you had some good excuse why you couldn't guard him. I mean, you're tired, long day at work, something like that.
That's always a go-to excuse. But I got my revenge, though, with that Dirk Nowitzki play with 0.7 seconds left.
Oh, yeah.
That was
you were able to advance it from one end to the other without any time going off the clock. That was
I think you guys saw that. I sent that into you at the 0.7. I'm just going to take a quick 10 seconds to go over it. I was down 5 and with like less than 5 seconds left, and I made a 3 and 0.7 was left on the clock, and I somehow managed to foul Roger on the inbounds. Roger split the pair, and then I get the rebound without any time going off the clock. I just pressed start at the right time and timeout at the right time. And then I had that same inbound situation happen where I put Dirk at point guard, and he cut towards me and then cut towards the basket and passed to him at the perfect time to release the 3. I mean, releasing a 3 in 01 with 0.7 seconds left is very, very challenging to get it off.
And we've hit that circle button so many times on our controller, it doesn't always respond 100% of the time. So, less than 1 second, it can be sketchy.
When you guys played 01, I remember hearing you talk about how sometimes when you press the buttons, there seemed to be like a delay. So I know you know about that.
The transition from when you do a spin move or a dribbling move and try to transition it into a shot, and it just, if you don't time it properly, that was a big problem. That they finally fixed that in 2003, but 2002, because I was talking to Rod Redekop, who was still working on. He's one of the original guys from NBA Live, and he was still working on Live 2001. It was his last, and he mentioned that they actually completely redid the code that year. They switched to a whole new code base, which is why it feels so different to 2000.
Yeah, we played 2000 on some system back in like 2015. Do you remember? We played it, and it was really similar to 01, but just it was on an older system, so it looked a little...
Yeah, I do have NBA Live 2000 for N64.
That's what we played it on?
Yeah, and just going from 2000 to 2001 was probably a bigger jump than any of the games going forward that I like from 01 to 02, 02 to 03.
Well, it was different systems, that's why.
Yeah, for sure. I think was 2000 on the PS2, or was that... No, that was before.
PS1 and PC. PC version was best for 2000. 64 was probably the worst version of that, actually.
It was not as fun.
It was, that was the tail end of the N64 era.
Yeah,
although
it was.
I as well.
You touched on a couple things, actually, that we discussed with Ken, still to 33, on episode 409, actually. And there were two things that were really dominant in some of the early live games, those early 2000s live games. One, tall shooters, like you talked about. Like my brother averaged 60, 70 points a game with Walter McCarty in those early 2000s games. And Pat Garrity and guys like that you could just shoot. And it's like defense wasn't even in front of them. The defense is jumping in your face and you're just making shots all over the floor. And putting big guys with speed, like you mentioned, putting Dirk at point guard, like putting Kevin Garnett at point guard, putting Dirk at point guard, stuff like that was really dominant. And then in the newer games, what ended up happening is they really had trouble factoring in height and making the height be, how do I say, not too dominant. So like you could go in there with like NBA 2K11, 2K12 and whatnot and just score like 50 points a game with Hakeem to beat because he's 7'5" or whatnot. And so it's funny how that changed in video games. Height just ended up being incredibly dominant in the 2K series in the early, I'd say late 2000s and early 2000s, almost all the way up until today. Have you had a chance to put your hands on any of the newer 2Ks and experience any of that? Or do you guys strictly stick with those live games, like those early 2000s live games?
I have a couple buddies that I'll play 2K with. I never really got into the online gameplay. I just like being next to someone and being able to trash talk them in person. And yeah, like today's gaming, like 2K gaming community, I just can't really relate to with all the virtual coins and, the My Player and all this stuff. And I know you guys dabble with it once in a while, but like, we're just, we're still 20 years, living 20 years in the past. So my most recent experience was 2K21. It was okay. I mean, going from 17 to 22, I didn't really see like a huge difference. I actually thought 17 was probably the best, like, recent 2K that was released. So yeah, it just doesn't get our juices flowing as much, I guess.
I played NBA 2K12, 2K13, and 2K14 all on Xbox 360 when I was in college, and I had a pretty good time playing those online. A lot of rage quits, so that was something I had to work on because the online community, hit or miss. You could play with guys who pause it when you're in the middle of a fast break or just do whatever they can to piss you off. So that was tough for me online. I like playing with the person next to me now a lot more, but I haven't played the newest 2Ks. The most recent one I played was probably 2K14.
Now, Andrew, for me, I don't get into that online scene. I'm very much like the two of you. For the most part, I can't stand the My Player thing. My career, I can't stand the toxicity of online play. I also don't like the single player use. You guys are probably the same. Like, I don't like just running around with one player. I like to use a team. So that's the other reason. But Andrew dabbles in that scene, and he has over the last few years. And I think, Nate, he would agree with Nate's frustrations.
Oh, 100%. I have got into the My Career experience over the past decade. I still do dabble, as you said, Derek. But the online scene, I've really moved away over the past 12 months because it's just getting worse and worse. If you go in there solo, if you're playing with randoms, it's just absolutely terrible. It's very hit and miss as to whether you get people who have decent basketball IQ or know how to play with others. If they, you get a lot of selfishness and toxicity online for sure. And 2K16, I got into it because Kenny, one of our team members, he invited Arcane, one of our other team members, to join the Prime team, and we got into that in 2K17. We really, really loved it in 2K17. It was a great scene then, playing with a squad of 5. But some of the guys drifted away over the years. Yeah, when you go in there with just 1 or 2, or certainly just alone, you just run into all the jerks. Absolutely. So, yeah, the online scene is unfortunately nowhere near as good as it could be. So I'm back to playing either with Derek or and people I know, or just playing solo.
We love 2K17, by the way. We agree with you.
Absolutely,
also,
yeah, 100%.
NBA 2K17 is, in our opinion, the best recent release for the series.
Guys, what would your recommendation be for going back and playing a certain 2K? And that was we're kind of in line with you on that one as far as 2K17. Although we usually go back and just play with the classic teams when we do that anyway.
Yeah.
Have you guys looked at the 2K14, 2K13, like Ultimate Base roster, Ultimate Retro roster, all of that stuff that has like all the seasons and all the modded seasons and all the art and all that stuff? You guys would love those rosters.
Yeah, I have gone through and on like 19 and 20, and I have downloaded some custom rosters, like, the 98 season and stuff like that. So I've dabbled with a few, but yeah, mostly just playing with like the 01 Kings, 03 Mavericks and stuff like that.
I think the most recent time we played 2K with each other, whether it be 17 or 19 or whatever one you have.
I think it was 20.
20. Mm-hmm. I remember one of us played with the Kings, and I don't know who the other person played with, because Chucky Brown was on that Kings roster.
Yeah.
And I'm like, he was never an 01. I looked at his stats. He was more of a 90s guy, but somehow he's on the 01. Maybe it was the 02 Kings.
Yeah, the end of bench players, a lot of times you'll have like 3 or 4 just like generic
There's
guys.
So many Jay Davises like on every team. Like a white ball guy with a headband is like on the end of every retro roster in the new 2Ks. Maybe, have you guys noticed that?
Oh yeah, the placeholder players, they're all copy and paste. Same name, same stats, basically, yeah.
That just bummed me out. I'm like, why am I paying for buying someone's unfinished work? So...
we hate it. You guys have probably seen me talk about it on Twitter. I don't know if you were connected with me at the time when I made the big thread kind of calling out those issues with the retro teams. It wasn't even just calling out like the J Davises and the M Davises and the R Johnsons and all of that stuff. It was about just like the copy paste ratings tendency stuff, like the completely rushed, non-accurate way they made the classic players and classic teams, and as a result, they don't play well on the floor. They're not really fun to use or realistic to use. We've been calling that out for years.
To add to that, in NBA Live 2001, for all the players' ratings, about 90% of the players in NBA Live 2001 have a 75 jump rating. So maybe like that's been a part of basketball video game creation since for the last like 20 years. Like sometimes people just don't have enough time or money to finish their games, I guess.
I feel like we've gotten to the point where we probably know as much as the developers do, not as far as coding, but as far as accuracy of the ratings.
Yeah. I wish I can go back into those guys' heads in 2000 and wonder what they were thinking when they assigned Steve Francis like a 99 jump, or when they assigned Arvydas Sabonis 57 speed.
Yeah, Steve Francis being able to jump as high as Shaquille O'Neal that adds a whole nother dimension as far as like defense goes. I mean, you can block shots from 7 feet away.
Steve Francis, he has 99 jump, but his block is only in the 60s. So sometimes you'll be in perfect position, you'll jump so high, the ball will go between like his ear and his armpit. Like, how is that not a block?
This is why this is hilarious. This is absolutely hilarious, because that's how I found you guys. So NBA Live 2001 highlights. I hop on Instagram. I don't even use Instagram much. And I see this highlight. It just jumps out at me right when I log on to Instagram. And it's Grant Hill. Grant Hill dunking with his head like a foot above the rim. And like, this is one of the highest jumps I've ever seen in a video game history. And he throws it down. And if you remember correctly, I put that as, I think, in the top 3 of the top 10 plays of the week that week. And I reached out to you folks on Instagram and I was like, hey guys, can I use this highlight for the top 10? And you were like, sure. And that's how I ended up connecting with you guys, is one of those ridiculous, unrealistic, you would never see it in real life dunks. And it was by Grant Hill.
Yeah, there's only a handful of players that can throw down. I know the type of dunk you're talking about, and we've seen it from Kevin Garnett, Grant Hill.
Wallace can do that.
Yeah,
T-Mac and Kobe can do that dunk.
Yeah, it's extremely unrealistic. I mean, his head literally is like almost a foot above the rim.
It looks sweet though.
Yeah, but as far as like the dunk mechanics on all the other dunks, they're pretty like something you'd see in real life.
There's probably like 15 different dunks.
Yeah,
in 01.
I mean, there's a little bit of everything. There's reverse jams. There's the Spreewell 360 that we just saw in this past week. So
that's from a while ago.
Yeah. So in general, that's the only like really super video gamey dunk. But one thing I did want to touch on that you had mentioned earlier was how you averaged 50 a game with Walter McCarty and Pat Garrity and stuff. And we've gotten to the point where Pat Garrity, his rating is 69 overall, and we probably average about 30 to 40 points per game with him when we play with him, just cheesing out and making ridiculous shots. And
he is so good.
He's like the diamond in the rough of like all of the lower tier players in that game. I mean, it is ridiculous.
Walter McCarty isn't that bad either. He's one of those corner three guys where the CPU doesn't jump when he shoots.
And his 3-point rating is like an 89 too. So
McCarty's,
so he can really burn you.
Yeah, just tall guys who could shoot threes in those early video games are just free fire with them. The green light's always on.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you go 1 for 3 back in those games, it all adds up.
Walter McCarty was so dominant in NBA Live 2003 and Live 2004. It was absolutely insane. But that brings me to another question, too, because Andrew and I talk about it all the time. Like, should we start a season? Should we play exhibition? And we want to get the pulse on, what people like to do in the community as well. Are you playing my career? Are you playing season? Are you playing my league? Are you playing exhibition, etc.? We watch your highlights. You guys are using all of these different teams and whatnot. What would you say the split is between playing a season and playing exhibition? Like, how often do you play each one? And as far as when you do play a season, who are your go-to teams?
So most of the time we do like a shortened season with like 8 teams. So there's 7 games total, so we can blow through a season pretty quick, and then we'll do like a 1-game playoff. So like when you do like an 8-team season, 4 teams will make the playoffs, and it's pretty simple and cut and dry. And sometimes, once in a while we'll do a playoff, either with like 8 teams, or we'll fill out the whole bracket and just run through it. But lately we've been doing more seasons. And as far as like go-to teams, I really like playing with the Houston Rockets. Another shout out to Matt Bullard. But our current season right now, I'm the Supersonics and he's the Hornets. So we try to mix it up and do a different team every time. We kind of do random draws. We literally draw out of a hat the teams that we're going to pick, and then we have the other person eliminate one of the teams, and then we select from that pool. So we have our ways.
When we were young, we would always play exhibition. We would always play Kings Knicks. That was just the go-to matchup for age 10 to age 13. Always the same 2 teams. Because you just don't know enough about the other players when you're that young and just learning about the NBA. And then we did playoffs a lot from like 2015 to 2019-20. And then I listened to one of your podcasts, and you talked about how you would play a season where each person would pick a team, and you go through the season where the other player would play the team against them. I said, that's a really good idea. We should start doing seasons like that so we could see like MVP stuff and how the stats accumulate. And yeah, like Roger said, the 7-game season with a 1-game playoff, that usually takes us about 2.5 months or 3 months. And it's probably the most fun. Being familiar with the team after a while and watching the stats add up is just one of those perks of gaming.
So I have to ask, because I'm struggling to remember off the top of my head. Moochie Norris, is he on the Rockets or the Sonics in 2001?
He's on the Rockets.
Rockets, that's right. Yeah.
He's a nice little backup point guard. He's got a pretty high steal rating. He
can threes.
He can hit threes too, and he's got some of the best hair in the game as well.
Yeah, he's a backup point guard at best, and it's good. You don't need a good backup point guard when you have Steve Francis.
Mm-hmm.
Francis is so overpowering in those games. It's excellent though. He's one of my favorite players actually from the early, mid 2000s.
But the 01 might have been like the pinnacle of his career.
Yeah, very good rating. He's one of those players. The people who made the ratings were like, Steve Francis, he's this new superstar. He's 23. He could jump and shoot, and he could do street ball moves. So they just made him better, assuming that he was going to be better, like a Hall of Famer. But yeah, his career kind of just dropped off. So there's a lot of players in like video games. Whenever you go back and look at ratings, you can kind of get inside the head of the people who made these players. Like, oh, they were buying up in the hype at that time. This player was a new young player. He's going to be a franchise player. And then a couple of years later, he gets traded. So it's cool to see that stuff, like going back in video games, to see like what people's ratings were. Because you kind of get an idea of what the NBA community and like the gaming community thought of those players at the time.
My go-to example there is Darius Miles in NBA Live 2003. He's an 87 overall. He's like,
wow.
he'll develop into a 99 overall in franchise mode. Give it a few years, put him there in the starting lineup for the the Cavs as he was at the time. And he'll become a 99 overall. But it's clear that the hype was there, as you said. I mean, I remember people talking about Miles back in the day saying, "Oh, all he needs is a jump shot, and he's the next KG." And it didn't quite pan out that way. He had his moments, but didn't quite get there.
Usually, when you say all this player needs is a jump shot, it's not going to develop. We've seen that a lot.
All this
Ben Simmons, yeah.
Rely on defense.
Yeah. He develops more effort, then he should really take his game to the next level. But yeah, as Cavs fans, we felt the pain of the Darius, Miles, and Ricky Davis era. I mean, that was a tough time to be a Cavs fan.
It's funny, on YouTube, there's a highlight video of one of Darius Miles, like his 48-point game against the Nuggets, and the dunks he was throwing down in that game, like right before his career ended, were unbelievable. Like, he never did that on the Cavs.
Yeah,
I had an experience as a Celtics fan too with Ricky Davis and Darius Miles, so I'm with you guys. So we had Ricky Davis for a while in the mid 2000s, and I was actually a fan of him, even though he went for that triple double and whatnot. I forgive him. But Ricky Davis, his throw, just his swagger, that's kind of the way he played. I liked him. But we also had that experience with Darius Miles where he tried to make a comeback with the Celtics and played with us during preseason. And boy, was he a shell of his former self. He was trying to be a jump shooter at that point, and I'll tell you what, it didn't pan out.
The jump shot broke.
Darius came back on the Grizzlies, I think, at the end of his career.
Well, he played actually regular season games on the Grizzlies, but not for the Celtics, I don't think.
Yeah, he played enough also to trigger the Blazers had to then. I think that was either the luxury tax or they had to pay. It counted against the cap because they had an injury exception for him because he retired due to injuries. So they were unhappy about him, and that they kind of threatened other teams don't sign him, and then the league kind of came down on the Blazers, and then Miles played enough games for the Grizzlies to trigger the money going back on the cap for the Blazers. So the Blazers weren't too happy there. But I see your Ricky Davis and Darius Miles and raise you a Marcus Fizer on the Bulls in 2001. Fizer.
Oh, my God, yes.
Beast in the video games, though. Marcus Fizer was a tank in the video games.
It's like 275 pounds, I think.
His inside scoring is 87, which is really, really high. And
again, the hype.
The video game makers were just looking, and they're like, all right, this guy is huge. This guy has a giant body. He must be able to push people around in the paint. So
did Jerry Krause make the ratings for 2001 then with that kind of inside? Yeah, jeez.
Yeah, the Bulls. They're a tough team in 01. Fizer's definitely one of the go-to players on that team, and Elton Brand. They're just short power forwards in 01 can be tough to score with. Like Elton Brand and Fizer are both like 6'8" or 6'7".
One guy that is extremely useful in 2001 is, rest in peace, Anthony Mason.
Oh my God, he's so good in 01.
Yeah, I mean, he's like one of the original like point forwards who can just do it all.
His dribbling is so high and his strength is so high that when you're dribbling with him, you will push people out of the way without getting a foul call and just get into the paint, and then you can just do a hook shot. And he's just a very unique player.
Getting away with blasting through like that.
Can you imagine him today? Who's stopping Anthony Mason today? They can't guard you in the paint today because of the rules. Anthony Mason would be ridiculous today. Point forward, definitely.
I mean, they might just call technicals on him every time in today's league. So,
is he like a Draymond Green type of player where he's kind of can't really shoot, but just has the smarts? And I don't know.
A lot more skilled. I personally think he was more skilled, and he did have that mid-range shot, which you never see Draymond Green take.
That's true.
And that little fade. Yeah.
Draymond's never had much of a mid-range game at all.
Yeah, he doesn't look good at all in that. He doesn't look comfortable in that area at all. I did have another question for you guys, actually. So we talked about the way we play the games, and my brothers and I, we do the whole we start a season and we play, we choose our team and then we're our opponents every single game, and we do that locally. Like I have my brother Nick who lives with me, and then my brother Mark also comes over, and we have separate seasons. for all of us. Something that we've been trying to do, you talked a lot about local co-op. You talked about, or local co-op or local against. You guys talked about the amazing experience of playing in the same room and playing another human in that 5-on-5 control a team atmosphere. Have you seen the things that the NLSC is doing with the Parsec app? And have you guys thought about jumping into that scene and, maybe playing NBA Live 2001 online with other people, maybe Andrew and I and whatnot? And another question to tag onto this, if we were to do an NLSC NBA Live 2001 tournament using that Parsec app, would you guys be interested in participating?
Yeah, I heard you talk about Parsec over the last couple months, and I definitely would want to play against someone else besides Roger every night. Like, one of my goals just in making all the highlights and putting stuff on social media is to find people who were like, yeah, I used to play that game, and I want to play it again. Just because, after playing Roger for so long, it does feel like we're the only two people that ever play this game. But we're the two best in the world at it, so I guess that's good. But,
yeah, I'm going to have to give you those titles. Yeah, absolutely.
I know it's nice to hear someone else say it besides just me. It's like every time Roger loses to me, I'm like, well, you did just play the best player in the world. It's not that big of a loss, Roger.
Yeah, it makes me feel a lot better.
Yeah, your wins are just bigger than my wins.
My wins mean more.
When you win, I go into a depression. Like, I do not go to bed happy when I lose to Roger, because sometimes he is a lot better. But yeah, anyway, getting back to Parsec, I think that's something we would definitely want to do. We're not very tech savvy, so sometimes the motivation of like, all right, download Parsecs, figure out how it works, get a controller or whatever we can for our computers. Sometimes that is just hard for us to get going.
Yeah, I do have a copy of NBA Live 2001 for the PC, and I do have a Windows 7 desktop, and I was hoping that was going to run on that, and unfortunately it didn't. So we just got to iron out the details on that, and we got the setup. We just got to figure out everything else.
We got to get in those tutorials, yeah, because I've got 2001 working in Windows 10, but it's not recognizing my controller properly, so I do need to troubleshoot that. But I did get it working, so I can at least make rosters. Obviously, you guys know about the ratings. You're so familiar with the 2001 rosters and everything, and we see you making some rosters of your own. Have you thought about getting into some PC modding, perhaps?
Yeah. As soon as we can get it up and running on the PC, I'd be open to making some custom rosters and whatever we'd be interested in doing. But yeah, we've been messing around with custom rosters in 01 for a little bit now. We've made several different eras, going back to 2016 Cavs versus Warriors. Working on some new ones now with also the Cavs and the Warriors.
Current day rosters.
Current day Cavs and Warriors rosters.
We kind of make our rosters just for ourselves. Like, we're just not as tech savvy to be able to make a roster, upload it to the internet, share it with people. That's just not really what we do. We just like to play the games. It's like our big thing is just playing against each other and all of the different stuff that can be created off that. Whether it be like really emotional games, playing with old players. 2004 rosters a couple years ago, maybe like 4 or 5 years ago, mm-hmm. Every team created about 50 players and did all the transactions, and it took me probably 16 hours. And after doing that, I was like, I do not want to create a roster ever again.
I was just saying, it takes a long time.
It does.
When you want to make
it really does.
Right, when you want to make them right, even with the older games, if you want to make them right and you want to have fun with them on the floor and you care about the attention to detail, I don't care if you're playing a game 25 years ago. It just takes a lot of time, and it can get exhausting.
Yeah, I've gone to levels where I'm putting everybody's date of birth and colleges and trying to make their realistic faces and stuff.
Their favorite food. Yeah. Roger does all the details. I just try to get the ratings and make sure if they're right-handed or left-handed.
Yeah,
get the skin color right.
Basketball Reference has a really good section under the players with like advanced shooting. So you see how well they shoot from mid-range, 3-point, corner threes, inside scoring and stuff. So I try to base it off of their real-life stats over the last couple of years. So just plugging all that in, it does take a long time. I mean, like I told you guys before, it's probably about 15 to 20 minutes to get one accurate player. So multiply that by however many it takes to fill out a roster.
No, it does take a long time to make a detailed roster for sure. And it's great to have those resources like Basketball Reference, which we didn't back in the day. I remember making my 95-96 season roster for Live 2001 PC, which is still available in our download section, actually. And basing it on, having to refer to trading cards and refer to NBA Live 96, which is why there are some inaccuracies in that roster, which I really should go back and edit sometime, maybe for March Madness. I'll do that this year. But yeah, having those references to actually consult and be able to go into that detail is awesome. But I do love minimalist modding, as I've said many times before on the show, that just using those default assets to make something new. And I have to imagine that you've become really adept at using all the different body sliders to get the right weights in Live 2001's Creator Player. Because that's the one thing I remember at Live 2001, trying to balance the body shape and at the same time get the right weight. It was just a delicate balancing act.
Yeah, you have to use two sliders to get their weight. You have to move their bulk slider and their muscle slider. And then you also have a leanness slider that doesn't change their weight, but it makes them look skinnier.
It makes their hip thinner, I guess.
Yeah, really weird. I remember seeing that as a kid. I was on the PC and I was trying to click on the weight, and I was just so confused. Like, how come I can't change the weight? I was like 11 years old, and I'd come off of NHL 2000 where like you could change the weight. I'm just seeing that as a kid. I did not like it.
It's the only game that does that in the series that forces you to do the weight, locks the weight to the body type and the body sculpting. 2001's got a lot of unique stuff. It's the only one with the 3-team trades in NBA Live. It's the only one with the disable the automatic roster reordering. That was Tim Cherner, one of our founders, 2001 was the first game he worked on. That was one of his. The first game 2002 does as well, that you can assign a player to, if you have less than 12 players, less than 12 players on the active roster, you can move one to the inactive roster. So there's a lot of things about 2001 that just very unique, and that's one of them.
Yeah, I remember doing the 3-team trades on the PC, but I don't think we've ever tried to do that on PS2. PC and the PS2 version have a lot of differences, because I think there was like 3 months between when they got released.
PC was delayed, yeah.
You could do fantasy drafts on the PC, and you can't do it on PS2.
I saw someone on Twitter interacting with a copy of NBA Live 2001 with Arvydas Sabonis on it.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Custom video game cover.
It was the very first regional release in Lithuania. They actually did the Arvydas Sabonis cover. It's official, much like the Japanese cover of Live 2002 that has Michael Jordan in a Wizards jersey. It's one of those early collectible international releases. So, yeah, that's legit, but it's very rare. You can't really get that on eBay.
Remember that? One time, one of Roger and I's buddies in college was playing football at Colgate. So I took a picture of him like holding a hot dog and put him behind like an NCAA like 09 cover. Sent that to you. It was like one of our first memes between you. You remember that?
Yeah, that was like right at the beginning of social media before memes.
Yeah, like back when Facebook was just for college kids.
Back when social media was cool.
Yeah.
We used to try to like create different covers for the games and stuff like that with different athletes. We'd like cut out a player from a magazine and like put that on a piece of paper and then put like the NBA Live 96 logo over it. Like we used to do stuff like that. You brought up something that actually I hold dear to me and in my past and whatnot. You brought up favorite food, and that made me think of going back and picking up a D Brown card in the early 90s and trying to learn more about D Brown. And it said on the back that his favorite, it mentioned all this stuff about D Brown, his favorite musical artist, Janet Jackson, favorite food, cheeseburger, stuff like that. You guys are super, you have attention to detail and you love the little things and the little facts like we've been talking about on this podcast and whatnot. Did you guys collect basketball cards? Do you still collect basketball cards?
I have basketball cards. I had some as a kid, maybe like 100, and then I recently got a box set from the 80s.
Nice.
It was like at a garage sale or something that they were getting rid of. It was really cheap. So now I have like probably 1,000 basketball cards from like the mid 80s. I think it's mid 80s or early 90s. But I mean, I have them. I went through them once. That's where I gave you that Matt Bullard card, didn't I?
Yeah. After the game winner, that was my present.
So I have a ton of baseball cards. I have cards from every sport still in my room in a cardboard box. So I was definitely that kid. Roger and I we both collected basketball cards. Like to look at stats. We were like that, you know, when we were first buying 01, that was our kind of style.
Well, when we started playing video games, it was a mix of obviously NBA Live 2001, and then Triple Play and NHL 99 were big. So like baseball was probably like our first like as far as collecting cards goes, you know, getting all the baseball cards, throwing them in the binders, organizing them by team.
Yeah.
That was definitely big for me in the late 90s, early 2000s. I still have those.
We played that baseball card game where you would roll the 20-sided dice.
Yeah.
I have no idea what it was called, but you had a 20-sided dice and you'd roll it and you would like move your baseball cards around the diamond. That was weird.
I remember Butch Husky was really good,
and
even though he sucked in real life.
Todd Green was really good. Just random guys. So yeah, we were into all that stuff when we were young. I've always loved sports and all the stuff that goes with it.
Diamonds and Dragons, from the sounds of it, 20-sided die there.
No, I was just thinking that when I said it. I forgot the name of that game, though.
Maybe it was a Ouija board. Who knows?
No, there was NBA Jam Session as well. The board game, the official NBA board game was interesting. Again, kind of the forerunner to My Team, an Ultimate Team, where you collect cards, although, of course, no microtransactions, which is something that a lot of kids don't appreciate these days. But yeah, with trading cards, I had a bunch of them. As I said, I referred to them to make retro roster mods back in the day. I actually picked up some off eBay a few years back for about $2 a pack from, again, mid-90s cards. So a lot of the packs that I used to get back in the day, I found a bunch of them on eBay really cheap, and did a retro pack opening with my cousin a while back. But I've looked recently, and they've jumped up to about $15 a pack. So they must be getting rare. Those sealed packs from the 90s are definitely getting rare, so it's hard to get your hands on them. So yeah, if you got them at a garage sale for a good price, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I wouldn't say they're really worth that much. They're probably more sentimental to me. But if I could sell them to someone who would pay more money than I bought them for, I definitely would do that. You know, they're basically a type of currency that, you know, only certain people have value for.
Crypto from the 90s, you know, it's it's non-fungible.
I actually opened a recent pack. I got a we're starting to collect again, and I got a pack from one of my brothers this Christmas, and I got a very rare Zion Williamson card, and I looked it up in Beckett, and it's worth $150 right now. And I was thinking I should probably sell this right now before his career just completely tanks because of injuries, and then the card value drops. So it's like sitting there.
What does the weight say on the card?
I have to go back and look at it. He is so top heavy. That's what I worried about with him, you know, coming in. Remember how he busted through his shoe in college? I don't know if you guys heard about but that's a sign of being top heavy. You know what I mean? Like he tried to move too quick, and his legs, like his feet, legs and stuff and whatnot, couldn't support that weight he has on his upper body. And I'm not shaming him for being overweight. I just think he's not well proportioned. You know what I mean? For basketball.
I am shaming him a little bit. When he moves forward, he like leans forward when he like jogs. It like
he worries me. Yeah, he worries me. It's just more about being proportionate. Like I've seen players like Anthony Mason who were well proportioned, right? Big upper body, but also he had like tree trunks for legs. Like he had big thighs. You know what I mean? Like he could support that weight, and that's fine. But what it looks like to me is that Zion doesn't spend the amount of time, like a lot of players today, does not spend the right amount of time on his lower body. And that's my opinion on it.
Yeah, I mean, you have a couple foot injuries and a knee injury with a guy that size. I mean, he went from allegedly 285 in college, and then, you know, we heard reports, rumblings at the beginning of the season, he's around 330. That's like 60 pounds more than like anybody else in the league.
He's got that
insane.
Kahid El Amin syndrome.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought him up. I'm glad you brought him up, because that's the other player that I remember from 2001. Obviously, both the game and the season, because he had this great showing in the rookie challenge that year. And then about, I think, 10, 15 games after that, the Bulls cut him. And that was it. That was the end of his NBA career. He was like, 5'11", or 5'10", and 250 pounds or something?
He's a full-figured guy, I'd say.
Eric Snow, too. He didn't get cut, but after Eric Snow retired, he was like 300 pounds. That picture of him online.
He got big. No, he got big. Sometimes it ends in tragedy, which is really sad. Like Dennis Johnson. Dennis Johnson couldn't keep his weight down after he retired and whatnot, and then he ended up having a lot of adverse health effects, and I think it ended up leading to his passing and whatnot. Do you guys remember when? And before we get in a little bit, I'm going to get to 5 quick fire questions for you guys to end the show. But do you guys remember when Michael Sweetney came back and tried to make an attempt to get on the Celtics roster?
I was going to say Mike Sweetney is just...
Look up the pictures of this. Google this after the call if you don't know. I went and saw the game live, one of the preseason games with Michael Sweetney in a Celtics uniform. It's the biggest man I've ever seen in my life. He looked like he took up the whole paint. Like when he was like, and he was like moving people too. What's funny is he moved really well for his size, and he did some things decent in that game, but I've never seen a bigger basketball player in my life. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I don't remember that particularly, but when you're talking about like the biggest guys on the court you ever see, it definitely brings up a memory of Oliver Miller.
Yeah.
He was a hefty man.
He made a comeback, though, in 2004 for the
Wolves. Yep.
Yeah.
That's how when I first saw him.
Mm-hmm.
I remember Mike Sweetney, when you like the Knicks when we were kids, the Knicks drafted Mike Sweetney, and we both did not know who he was. Of course, the rookies, they come in, their ratings are like dog crap. And we're like, this guy sucks.
Yeah.
And then he ended up getting traded or cut. Those were some rough Knick times. They said good players. They were so video game good, those like early 2000s Knicks.
Mm-hmm.
But they would only go like 30 and 50 every year.
Yeah, I think Sweetney got north of 450 pounds, like approaching 500 pounds at his worst, playing I forget where he was playing overseas, but I think I also read that he then shed some weight, which probably for the best, because again, the health issues that come with that. Yeah, absolutely.
That's like the heaviest guy I've ever heard of being on a basketball court. Like 450 pounds. That is so
you gotta
big.
see it. Nate, Roger, when we get off this call, make sure you go onto Google and you search Michael Sweetney Celtics, and you're going to see what I'm talking about. I see why they put him on the roster to give him a try, because he still moved really well for that size. But I had really good seats to this game, and I'm looking at this man, and I'm like, how is this even possible? Like, how is he on a basketball court? It was just unbelievable.
Yeah, we'll definitely check that out.
Imagine putting that jersey, like hanging that game-worn jersey of him on your wall.
7XL.
Goes from like door to door.
Yeah.
So I do, Andrew, I'm going to move on to that now. I think it's probably a good time. I do have 5 quick fire questions for you guys, and you guys can take turns answering if you want and whatnot. So first one is, it is the year 2000, and you are both separately asked by David Stern to take charge of an NBA team. What team are you choosing and why?
I would choose the Sacramento Kings, because when I was a kid, that was, besides the Cavs, because we're both from the Cleveland area, the Kings were like the best team to watch when I was a kid, and first like learning about basketball, because everybody was good, everybody passed. It wasn't like iso ball. Like watching Cavs games in the early 2000s, it was all just crap basketball. The Kings were just the best team when I was a kid. I would definitely pick the Kings.
Yeah, similarly, we both struggled to, be really engaged with those Cavs teams in the early 2000s. We were still fans. We went to games, but I definitely gravitated towards the Timberwolves, and Kevin Garnett was just like my favorite player growing up. So that would probably be my choice.
My brother Nick's favorite player is Kevin Garnett, so that's awesome. And on the same lines of that question, Jason Williams or Mike Bibby?
So for me, I remember learning about Jason Williams first, and I'm like, when I was a kid, I was really short. I had a buzz cut. Jason Williams, he looked like me. I was like, I want to be like Jason Williams, the point guard. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, wait, why does Jason Williams go from number 55 to number 10? And I'm like, oh, that's Mike Bibby. It's a completely different person. And then I ended up really liking Mike Bibby a lot, just because he fit that role, like as a idol, a role model for when I was a kid. And then obviously Mike Bibby hit some amazing shots when I really started getting into the Kings. So I'm definitely a Mike Bibby guy.
Yeah, I believe we both have a white Mike Bibby number 10 jersey.
Yeah, I got mine when I was in high school.
Yeah, I got mine on eBay recently. So I think we're both in the Bibby camp. Although Jason Williams' highlight reel is just amazing.
Yeah, I still like Jason Williams. He just brought a lot of flair to the NBA, and they needed it at that time. Like we always touch on, like the early 2000s, every player had their own, set of skills. Every player could do something special. Everybody just didn't shoot threes. Everybody did their own thing. Jason Williams' style was just really awesome. It definitely left an imprint on me.
I mean, his passing was just insane.
I mean, that was a very important question, but here's one from the 2003 Cavs. Milt Palacio or Smush Parker?
Probably Smush Parker. I remember being a kid, trying to create Milt Palacio and looking at his stats, and he just stunk. His stats were good. I don't remember watching him play, but Smush Parker, he was always hyped in the Cleveland area. Everybody in Cleveland wanted Smush Parker to be good, and it just didn't happen.
Yeah, there's a lot of those guys in the like we were saying, the early 2000s Cavs were rough. From Luke Jackson to Trajan Langdon. Who was the point guard that fizzled out? DeJuan Wagner. He was really highly touted.
He would have been good if he didn't get a disease.
Yeah, he had some sort of blood infection or something. So I'd probably say Smush Parker as well. But just hearing Milt Palacio just brings back bad memories.
Yeah.
Well, I'm in the Jason Williams camp. Actually, I have a Jason Williams jersey, and whatnot. And I echo a lot of things you guys said about him as far as his passing and ball handling and whatnot. Also, Milt Palacio is known as Miracle Milt in Boston because he hit a couple buzzer shots, game winners for the Celtics in his short stint there in like 1 week. So we were calling him Miracle Milt for a while. Not a bad little player. But that's how we know him anyway.
As for Smush Parker, obviously the name Smush stands out, but he's my proof that Lakers fans overrate everyone on the Lakers, because I was making roster updates for Live 06 and Live 07 PC, and pretty much every release, because I was always getting feedback on ratings, because you do overlook some. And I said, look, if I miss a player or you're following a player that I'm not following as closely, give me the feedback. And I'd always, after every single release, I get Lakers fans telling me, Smush Parker, he's ready, he just need to go up, up, up. He's the best at steals in the league. He's this tremendous playmaker and everything. And then he left the team and said some bad things about the late Kobe Bryant, and now they hate him. So, yeah, that's my Smush Parker story.
Yeah, trashing Kobe Bryant after leaving the Lakers is never a good look for your career.
didn't really work out for him, no.
So here's a second question for you. Fantasy draft on NBA Live 2001. Who would you build your team around?
It's kind of like whatever your favorite big man is. Like the big men are so important to one. Kevin Garnett is definitely the best player. You can score 50 points with Kevin Garnett any game.
40 points is a bad game with Kevin Garnett.
Yeah, unless you're trying to go for a triple-double or something. Yeah, Kevin Garnett can get 50 points easily. And I think Chris Webber probably second, Tim Duncan third, Shaq fourth.
Yeah, I agree with that order. So build around the bigs, and obviously Kevin Garnett just has that combination of length and athleticism that's kind of unmatched in that game, and his ball handling is really good too. So probably,
he's so fast.
His speed's like a 90.
He's always running on the fast break too. Like if he doesn't get the rebound, he always seems to just run down the court and just is faster than every power forward. It's such an advantage.
Yeah, so I'll definitely build around Garnett number one.
KG is very infamous again in the NLSC community, especially when it comes to fantasy drafts in 2001. Very famous, very infamous thread on our original Discus forums talking about, I cannot believe my starting five. Somebody, I forget his username, because he left shortly after because he got into an argument with everybody, was talking about doing a fantasy draft and making a few trades, and he comes up with this a really great starting five at the time, which included KG at point guard. And he kept insisting that KG's natural position was point guard. Now, obviously, as you noted, you can put him at point guard in 2001 and do a lot of damage. But this guy was saying, oh, it's his actual natural position. And so it really started as this thread about this guy who'd done something really cool with the fantasy draft and franchise mode. But because of that, his insistence that KG was a point guard, it devolved into this argument, and he got mad because people kind of called him out on it. And then this went into the most infamous threads in our forum history, because it just went completely off the rails, went about 1,000 posts back when that was a pretty big deal in the old days of message boards, of just went completely off topic all over the place, and jokes about Keith Kloss and everything else. But yeah, always remember KG, I cannot believe my starting five, and Kevin Garnett as the point guard. That was a very infamous thread back in the day on our forum.
If you're starting Kevin Garnett at point guard, you're just losing a lot of the stuff he can do in 01. Like, he's not going to run the fast break if he's at point guard, because he's always going to come back to the ball. So you're going to miss out some points there. And he's never going to be in the paint on defense blocking shots, because he's always going to be on the perimeter guarding the point guard. So, I mean, I'm sure that guy had his own strategy for using KG at the point, but if he comes against one of us and tries to do that stuff, we would probably find a way to exploit it.
So I've actually brought it up because I did a Way Back Wednesday on it, because of course I did. And it was, I think I actually have his username here, A.L. That was the username back in the day. And he says, hello all. So anyway, I'm playing a custom team, redrafted all the modern NBA players, and I had the 5th pick overall. What I hate about this part of the game is the fact that the draft goes from 1 to 29 and back to 1 again. It's so unfair to the other teams. This annoyed me in NBA 2000, and I was disappointed they did not change that. Anyway, I picked Garnett at 5 overall, and picked the best players thereafter. After drafting my team, the computer ranked me the best overall, but I didn't like the fact that my squad was a bit long in the tooth, so I put on my GM suit and went to work. After all was said and done, I came out with a dream starting 5, dream is in capitals, for any long-term franchisee. At centre, Mark Jackson, 25 years old. Power forward, Elton Brand, 21. Small forward, Tracy McGrady, 22. Shooting guard, Allen Iverson, 26. Point guard, Kevin Garnett, 26. Yeah, I let KG play his natural position. Besides, this way he overpowers other point guards. And he goes on to say, his bench has got Marcus Fizer, Jonathan Bender, and other future NBA prospects. Yeah, that didn't age very well either. But that doesn't matter. I'm still scratching my head on why the computer let me have such a dominating and impressive starting 5. And he goes on to talk about how all the steals he gets with KG. But it was very serious business, and led to that very that thread just went everywhere. ASCII art, Keith Kloss jokes, as I said, just went all over the rails for 1,000 posts.
I can't imagine that guy was playing on Superstar. If he's
no, probably not.
Because against the computer, you can get steals on Starter and even All-Star, but on Superstar, they just don't lose the ball as much. KG steal is 70 or 69.
Yeah, he just does a little bit of everything.
I did actually recreate that lineup in 2001 in PS2. Actually, I went ahead and there was another Way Back Wednesday I did. I actually recreated and played with it, and it's okay, but yeah, no, I wouldn't play with it myself.
Mark Jackson starting center, that's just...
Yeah, he's trash.
He's 67 overall. His inside scoring is 83 or something, but he's not going to do anything else. And he's still going to miss half his hook shots inside. So, I mean...
It's such a high rating for Mark Jackson, for the center Mark Jackson inside. He shouldn't be that good inside. He wasn't that good in real life.
There was about 5 months where he had some hype, and then that was it.
He was a rookie that year, so they were probably basing it off his college stats.
Oh, yeah, good point. Yeah, that's a really good point. I wanted to bring up the next question, too, and I'm curious how you guys, because this is your era, who do you choose, Hakeem Olajuwon or Shaquille O'Neal? Real basketball, you're a GM and you need a player.
Yeah, I mean, prime, obviously, Hakeem Olajuwon's probably the most skilled center we're ever going to see. He had the mid-range, he had the fadeaway, he had the hook shot. He was strong and overpowering.
His defense.
Yeah, his defense steals were probably really good, blocking. If we're just talking NBA Live 2001, just with the combination of size and inside scoring, you're probably going to go with Shaq. But if we're talking real life, I would choose Hakeem.
I think as a GM, choosing Hakeem is probably the right choice. If you want to win basketball games, he's just so good. He's got a good work ethic, or at least that's what my assumption is of him. But if you're trying to sell tickets, obviously as a GM, if I want to make money, I want to have Shaq, because he's going to be a rap star and be a goof, and everybody loves him. You'll probably sell more tickets.
Yeah, I mean, everybody loves Shaq. I mean, he's one of the funniest guys on.
He has so much content. Like, he has so many rap songs, and has his own movies. Like, Hakeem didn't do any of that stuff, but Hakeem focused more on basketball, so that's probably why he was a better basketball player. So I guess, what kind of GM do you want to be? Do you want to make money or win the championship?
That's a great question too. And the advertising too for Shaq it goes way beyond like his rap career and then basketball and whatnot. I mean, he's all over the TV now. Icy hot printer commercials. Yeah. He's everywhere. He's on Inside the NBA for TNT. Andrew, who do you choose, Shaq or Hakeem?
I always go with Hakeem. Just, again, that dedication to basketball, the skill set that he had, and I think, I actually do like him a bit more than Shaq, which is strange to say, but I've always been more of a Hakeem guy. So yeah, I'm going with the Dream.
Same here. I'm a Hakeem camp all day, and like for same thing as you guys. I think he was just a more skilled basketball player. I think he was more active on defense as well. People don't get it. Hakeem Olajuwon had 213 steals in one season. That is ridiculous for a center. His activity, and he also had 376 blocks in a single season. His activity on defense, he can jump out and guard guards on the perimeter and guard in the post and whatnot. And he was just had a plethora of moves. I'm definitely Camp Hakeem. So the next question is, how do you feel about the current NBA, and are you still fans?
For the current NBA, when LeBron came back to Cleveland, that I was the most invested in the NBA I think I ever was. Those 4 years, just loved it. And I think the minute LeBron left, I just was so tuned out. It was such a bummer. And I just like, man, the Cavs are going to suck for how long? Like, it's just going to be hard to watch. We watched a little bit more, I'd say about 2 or 3 years ago. And then once the NBA got canceled for that half season, I just never really came back as much. But now the Cavs getting better, I still don't watch the games. Like, we don't have access to watch the games right now, but I'll watch the highlights, and I'm glad they're good. But to sit down and watch a whole game from beginning to end, like block out 2.5 hours, I haven't done that since Game 4 of the 2018 finals. That was probably the last full game I watched.
Yeah, I'm definitely like still a basketball junkie. I was hopelessly optimistic after LeBron left, and obviously we had to go through a rebuild and everything. But I'm the guy that will watch, the Clippers and the Trailblazers at 10 o'clock at night after I get off work and throw a couple bucks on it. And the product obviously isn't as good as it once was. I mean, watching teams shoot an average of 37 3-pointers per game really sucks. And just effort level on defense and the bottom tier of some of these teams in the league really, really stinks. But I'll still watch. It's, I don't like the changes, but I'm just a basketball junkie at heart.
It can be hard to let go. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, that's why I always baseball. It's just a sport that it hasn't really changed in the last 100 years, except for home run numbers and strikeout numbers, stuff like that. So yeah, I'll still tune in.
Yes, I still love basketball. I like high school basketball's big in Ohio where we are. Lots of good players. I like the adult rec league basketball that I play in is really good. They run it like a real league. They keep stats, and it's really fun. Just the NBA, it has gone from being like that thing I want to watch every night. I want to watch the Cavs. I want to watch the good teams, and now it's I don't know all the players anymore. Like, there are all these new players. I just don't keep track of them like I used to when I was younger. So it's just harder to enjoy as much.
I can definitely relate to that. It's kind of gone from NBA, I love this game, to NBA,
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's how I feel too. And to echo what I think it was what Roger said, watching teams put up 70, 80, 90 threes a game combined is just absolutely combined. Yeah, that's how many threes go up combined per game. And watching just the ridiculous shot selection and the chucking, and when the percentage hasn't even really gone up since, the early 2000s and mid 2000s and whatnot, just, and the lack of defense. We're in the same boat as you guys. And I struggle to watch now as well. So the last question is, let's say that NBA Live 2001 did not exist. So no Live 2001. What's the game that you two would be spending the most time on?
If 01 didn't exist, I think we would dabble up a little more with different sports. Like we still do play NHL and Madden, like Madden 09, NHL 2002. So we'd probably have a more diverse repertoire of games that we play, just because that specific, NBA Live 2001 is just, holds a special place in our heart, and we know it the best. And we just haven't got the same joy out of, 05, 06 and other certain games. So I think that would just lead to mixing it up a little bit more.
It's so weird to play a game that's 20 years old, and like thousands of hours and thousands of games have like gone into it over the course of 20 years. Like just with that foundation, it just makes us want to play it more. You just feel like that game so well. I feel like what Roger said, we would probably play a more diverse group of video games if we didn't play 01, because we play 3 to 4 nights a week,
about
2 to 3 nights a week,
depending on how many times your girlfriend lets you play.
Yeah,
so
we both have to sync up our girlfriend and our life schedules, but we do, and
yeah, we have to plan it out days in advance.
We still would be playing, I don't know, probably Madden. I think Madden's tough though because it's just so boring,
and the games take a while.
There's like 30 seconds of picking plays is very boring after a while.
Yeah, that's the appeal of the basketball game. It's just with any basketball game, whether it's 2K or NBA Live. I mean, it's just constant action, quick adjustments, quick substitutions, and just more enjoyment out of the basketball games, I guess.
We probably play an older Live or 2K. One of the things I don't like about the new 2Ks is that, I think you guys have mentioned it before, they throw commercials in the gameplay. Like I'll be making a sub, and all of a sudden the Sprite slam cam's coming up I make a dunk and the Sprite slam cam is there, or it's the Sprite halftime show. Well, I want to just come on, let's play X. I want to get to the second half. I played like crap in the first half. I want to get to the second half, and they're showing all these commercials. Like in 01, it's just, and in all those old video games, no commercials. Press start, press X to advance, and you're just going.
Yeah, when we're playing 2K, I don't want to see Bill Simmons talking to me about social justice. I just want to play the game.
Thank you so much. Yeah. The whole thing with Bill said, like, I'm really glad you brought that up. The commentary just goes off the rails sometimes, and I know they're trying to make it more lifelike. But the last thing that I want is for Bill Simmons to be talking to me about. First off, his nasally voice gets to me sometimes, but second off, he's starting to talk to me about all these non-basketball related stuff. It's like, let's just talk about basketball. Like if you're going to comment, talk about the action and whatnot. And Doris Burke does the same thing. She goes off the rails. Well, all of these medical advancements and all of that stuff. And it's like, let's just talk about the action. So I definitely agree with you that the commentary can get kind of blah at times.
Well, if nothing else, those anecdotes, they get repeated every time those commentators come around in the rotation. It's kind of like, okay, yes, I've heard this lengthy anecdote before, even if you don't mind the anecdote. It's once you've heard it, it's that's enough, basically. And yes, the Gatorade timeouts. I think I mentioned it in last week's show that in my career, you can't skip it until 15 seconds, or I think it might be up to 20 or 30 seconds now. You can't skip it until that's passed because that big Gatorade logo is on the screen. It's basically a timeouts, sponsored by Gatorade. Regular gameplay, exhibition, my NBA, etc. You can skip it, but my career is unskippable for the first 15 to 30 seconds because it's a Gatorade ad. It's ridiculous.
That's insane.
It's like watching YouTube.
Like especially me, I hate commercials so much. I will mute the TV every time a commercial comes on. I just do not want to hear that stuff. And to play my career and have a Gatorade logo be on the screen while I'm waiting for the game to let me play again, I just would not want to play that. That's tough that it's like that.
It's a bit much, yeah.
My solution, don't watch TV. That's my solution. I just don't.
We are strictly YouTube people. Even with YouTube, though, you watch a 50-minute YouTube video or no, those 10-minute highlight videos we watch.
Mm-hmm.
There's 30 seconds of commercials before you start. You'll see 2 plays, and there'll be 30 more seconds of commercials. It's just, I mean, we don't have the Prime or anything like that, but it's tough.
Those mid-rolls.
Yeah, they're pretty bad. Yeah, I agree. And I do monetize my YouTube channel, but I make sure to never use those ads. Like I don't use the intro, middle, or end ads because I think they're ridiculous, and people shouldn't have to be interrupted. You know, like you said, a 10-minute video, they shouldn't have to be interrupted for 3 different times for 30 seconds at a time to watch like a toilet paper commercial. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous. So
It's when you say a 30-second ad for a 50-second video is when it's getting really silly.
And they're non-skippable too. That's the thing that really bothers me. Like some of them, some people will be nice about it. Like they'll be like, "Oh, well, I don't know if you can call that being nice because they're still putting ads on it." But they'll say you can skip it in 5 seconds. But some of these ads, they are like non-skippable ads, and it's 30 seconds that you have to sit through, and it's just it's not fair, to be honest.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I'm happy that they're making their money, especially the independent YouTube creators. But like the NBA page, the amount of ads they have, it's like, God dang.
YouTube is probably the most enjoyable platform as far as like going back, watching old videos, NBA fights, highlights, and stuff like that. But I think I'm going to shell out the extra $12 a month to just skip the ads. I mean, so much time wasted over the course of a month.
Yeah, maybe. I had a question for Derek. What video editing software do you use?
So Movavi, I'd say it's probably around $60. I got Andrew in on it, actually. I got it for him for a gift, and it is by far the easiest software for editing videos. And it doesn't take long to export them either. And I can pump out a highlight video, like a regular gameplay highlight video where I cut up the highlight. The way I do it, I could probably pump it out in like 5 minutes. So Movavi Video Suite is what I would recommend. If you get down to trying to get into the PC gaming scene again for like recording your highlights, I would recommend Marillus Action. It's only $20, and it is the easiest recording software that I've ever used.
I'll coast on that.
I was going to say, yeah, like I said, I'm not tech savvy. Our system is I take my old iPhone and I just record the TV and then upload it to my computer and use free software, VSDC video editor. And it probably, basically when I do our highlights, I have to watch the whole game and I pick the highlights out and cut and split them up. It takes about an hour and then 10 minutes to export. And then uploading to YouTube is another 20 minutes or so. So it's a process, but I enjoy it. I mean, like I said, after doing it like 100 times, like I've got my own system, but I know it's not the most efficient system. That's why I had to ask. I think this will be helpful and I've been planning on doing this. I'm going to do a quick tutorial video on Movavi Video Suite on how it works. And then I'll upload that to YouTube to my channel. And I'll also do one for Marillus Action because I really believe in it. I think it's a great recording software. And I'll just shoot you guys the links. And that way, if you ever dive into, wanting to use a different editing program, you can reference that video. And if you ever dive back into NBA Live 2001 PC, you can use that video as a reference for your recording software. Definitely. Like YouTube tutorial videos are my go-to when I want to learn anything, because everybody's putting stuff out about like any subject. So I feel like if you put that out, it'd be good, not just for me, but for a handful of other people that would reach out to you. Yeah, I'll do that. Did you guys have any other questions for us as well? I know you told us that before the show. Anything else that you had lined up? We just had more like talking points just about the real specifics of 01, just like the gameplay and our strategies and just like interactions that we've had with each other. Like 01 is basically an extension of our friendship. Like when we live with each other, so we're constantly smack talking each other and just trying to get it under each other's skin. And like when you're playing a video game, not against a computer, but like against the person right next to you, you could say stuff that's going to make them like over the course of a game, like lose a couple points, whether it be on free throws. And I don't know, there's just a lot of stuff that goes into playing with someone right next to you that I wish more people on YouTube would do that. There's just not a lot of people who put content of two people playing next to each other.
Yeah, like it's cool to see you guys too. Do some of the old games through the Parsec app and everything, and the enjoyment that you guys get from the retro basketball games, because we obviously, playing it 3 nights a week. I mean, there's, yeah, it's funny that you like look forward to that at the beginning of the day, like, oh, I got this tough matchup that if I win, it's going to get me in the playoffs, and I'm thinking about that at like 3:00 at work. So it's just something to look forward to, and like I said, or like you were saying, like, it's not as fun to watch the NBA these days, so this is kind of like our outlet of just old school basketball.
When we're hanging out with each other, instead of watching like the NBA, we'll just put on our own videos, our own highlight videos, and just rewatch them. And you will like, I don't know if this happens to you guys, but if you ever rewatch yourself playing and something happens, you'll like say the exact same thing again that you said when it happened. Like
that happens a lot.
That happens so much where I'll get a dunk and I'll be like, hey, and like on the computer or like on the re-recorded video, I'm saying the exact same thing. So it's just the stuff that goes with like watching your own highlights and like learning what you did wrong. It really does help. Like watching film on yourself for like anything just makes you a better player.
100%. No, I love that. We've said it before on the show, and it always bears repeating, that there's still that stigma against video gaming as an adult. I mean, it's kind of going away because there's a generation of adults that grew up with it. What do you do as an adult to unwind? As long as you're looking after you're going to work, you're taking care of your bills and your responsibilities, you've got a partner, you're giving them attention, you're spending time with them as well, going out with friends, whatever, cleaning the house, taking care of your business. What's wrong with unwinding with an old favorite, or a new video game, whatever tickles your fancy. So, no, we're all for it. We're absolutely with you on that one.
Well, I've said this before, there's people, and I actually had an interaction with a coworker about this, and you guys have probably maybe had these interactions in your life at some point, but, I had a coworker at one point say something, how can you play, these video games all day? Because I was talking about my exploits on, NBA video games. And I said to her, don't you sit and watch Netflix, binge watch Netflix for like 8 hours a day or like 5 hours a day or whatever? And she just kind of gave me like a blank stare. And then that's the thing is I don't have a problem with her watching Netflix for those 5 to 8 hours a day or whatever she does and binge watching it. That's her hobby and that's what she enjoys. What's the difference between that and me interacting with a video game and enjoying that experience with somebody else? Some people work on cars for their hobby. Some people collect stamps. I don't know if people do that anymore, but they used to. And some people do that type of stuff for their hobby. What's the difference with me playing a video game, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, they're far more harmful and expensive hobbies than, enjoying basketball video games. I think this is a pretty good outlet that we can all get behind.
Yeah, we're doing it with each other. So there's just friendship and camaraderie there. And, when we put our stuff online and get to reach out, it's just so funny to watch people react to our stuff. Because, I mean, I don't know, you don't really know us, but everything we say, we're trying to make a joke out of everything. We say stuff seriously, but try to get someone to laugh. So I remember the first time I interacted with Andrew on Twitter, I was like, why you guys not talk about NBA Live 2001? Like just trying to be like a dumb kid, like just trying to stir the pot. And like Andrew recognized it. He's like, yeah, being tongue in cheek because we do talk about it. So I don't know, just goofing off with old video games. It's like we're kids again. And then like Roger said in the beginning, getting these former NBA players to comment and react. Like the other day when Jim McElvain, that center who played in the league, he posted on Twitter, has anyone seen Chris Crawford from the Hawks lately? I feel like he disappeared. And I just tweeted back at him like, yeah, Roger Ward knows where he is. Ask him.
Yeah, I had Jim McElvain ask
him. He liked the comment. He liked the comment too. I saw it.
It's just like doing stuff like that just literally will make me cry laughing like when it happens. Like Roger's in his room and he just starts laughing because Jim McElvain's asking him where Chris Crawford is. It's so funny.
You have this special connection with these players. That's the way you feel about it, right?
Yeah.
You guys feel like you have a special connection with the players and that era.
Like when we were kids, like we just looked up to them as like NBA players. Like we wanted to be good at basketball. We liked basketball and these were the guys doing it. And just the fact that they're all in their 50s now and they got nothing to do except go on Twitter and social media. It's just so funny to me that we get to interact with them. And, we're not being mean or jerks, but we're just trying to get them to talk in a goofy way. I don't know. That's just one of the biggest new things that I've really enjoyed. Just reaching out to people, because, it was just us two in our basements for the longest time. And now that we put videos out and get to see people react to us, it just makes my day.
Well, I wanted to bring something up. I want to circle back to this, actually. You brought up local co-op and local against, and you let those experiences and how they're amazing they are, and how you go back and you'll binge watch your own highlight videos or your own games. I don't know if you've looked at my YouTube, all the videos that I put out of my, my gameplay exploits. About 90 to 95% of the videos on my YouTube are local play. It's like me versus my brothers, me on the same team as my brothers, all of that stuff. And there are nights where my brother Nick, who lives with me, we will literally throw on my YouTube and just binge watch all the highlights from our games that we've played against each other. So you guys are definitely not alone. There is absolutely something incredibly special about that local head-to-head and local overall experience that will always be more special and always blow away any of this, my career, my park, online team, single player use that's going on today.
Yeah, exactly. Like, playing with someone right next to you is so much more fun, in my opinion. It's just, the human aspect of it is just awesome, and you can't replicate that playing solo. Not saying that solo isn't fun in its own ways, but it's not the same type of emotions. And yeah, I've seen, I watch your YouTube videos more often just because they're the style that I like. It's like a nice, quick 5 to 10 minute video with cool highlights. And I especially liked when you played 01. It's so nice to see like another skilled basketball video game player play a game that Roger and I just know everything about, and just analyzing. And you put 5-minute video out about 6 months ago, maybe. Just watching all the moves you made, I'm like, yeah, that's a pretty good move. Or like, that's good, but we can probably do this to stop it. Like, seeing people in the community like that and watching like your videos and Andrew's videos, addicted to podcast and the Twitter. And it's just so, it's awesome to have people make content that are kind of like in our area that play the games that we like.
Yeah, we definitely do appreciate your podcast. I found myself, obviously, I have my go-to podcast sports-wise, but I'll mix your guys in when I'm, getting a lift in or going for a bike ride or something like that. So nice to hear you guys' discussions about some retro basketball games.
Yeah, and just hearing your podcast and watching your videos is more motivation to be like, I want to play tonight. I want to make my video tonight. I like my video games. It's just like, it's like a snowball effect.
No, I appreciate that.
We get the same.
Yeah.
Andrew, you could agree too. We get the exact same feeling, right, Andrew?
No, absolutely. And again, really appreciate those kind words, and we love your content as well. And I wouldn't still be doing the NLSC. I still wouldn't be running the NLSC, making the content that I am. And 20 years later, 21 years this year, if it wasn't fun, if I didn't enjoy it, and you touched on something there that, as much as we can talk about the toxicity of the online scene and online discourse and social media, which is definitely a thing, being able to connect with people like you and other gamers, and share those interests from all around the world. And I'm doing this podcast with Derek, on the opposite side of the world every week. And, since meeting and talking and, bringing Derek onto the team and the podcast, realizing how much we had in common about some of our opinions, obviously, of basketball and basketball gaming, and having some very familiar experiences growing up, despite being, despite some other differences, having these similarities in basketball and basketball gaming, it's just been really cool. And to be able to connect like that and to create content is the bright side of the internet, and what social media and the internet really should be about.
Yes.
Yeah, social media is, you see the bad side of it more than you see the good side, but just stuff like this, is the reason we have, Instagram, and why we use YouTube and Twitter so much. It's not so much to share this meal or what I ate or what I think about this sort of political scandal, but just a way to connect with other gamers and just kind of relive your childhood. Just you know, some of the names you brought up, Michael Sweetney, Pat Garrity, and stuff. You know, just holds a special place in our heart.
Yeah, I mean, about 20 years ago, Roger and I were going to be coaching our kids in '01. We're going to be like those video game dads who put a lot of pressure on our kids to perform. So I'm really hope I don't like Todd Marinovich, my kid. But he's going to play '01 for sure.
And we should note on the subject of Chris Crawford, one of the few players to play his entire career for the Atlanta Hawks. Not even Dominic Wilkins can say that, although he should be able to.
Yeah, not a lot of guys, you know, start to finish stay with the same team anymore. I mean,
especially role players.
Yeah.
Well, Daniel Gibson, you know, speaking of the Cavs, Daniel Booby Gibson. And I have to say Booby Gibson because why wouldn't you say Booby Gibson?
He was definitely an overrated player. The people in Cleveland talked him up better than what he was. So I'm not like the Cavs after his contract expired, they didn't even give him an offer.
No, nobody else did either.
So
kind of how Smush Parker was with the Lakers. Actually, they talked him up crazy, and then once they decided to spend more on upgrading the team, Smush Parker went to the Heat, didn't even barely play, and then he was out of the league. That happens with players when they want to pump them up and everything, but then you realize that when they're off that team, they were nothing super special. Another guy like that was like Mario Chalmers with the Heat. His career kind of fizzled out after the Heat.
He had a good role on the Heat. He was a solid defender and 3-point shooter, but yeah, they might have thought he was better than he was. I mean, he was a much better college player than he was professionally, even though he does have a couple championships under his belt.
He was a LeBron guy.
Yeah.
He bought into the LeBron system. Didn't he sign like a 10-day recently?
He signed a 10-day recently. He put up some crappy numbers in the G League. Like, he was shooting like 20% from deep. And then he was just filling a spot basically on the Heat. You saw a lot of guys that haven't played in years. I mean, Joe Johnson made a shot for the Celtics a couple weeks ago, which was really cool to see. But I mean, you know, Lance Stevenson, you're seeing a lot of guys like resurface just because of open roster spots and, you know, guys being out sick and everything. So that was cool to see, especially Joe Johnson. I mean, 2002 Celtics. I mean, and then in 2022,
that's crazy.
Making a turnaround jump shot.
It's too bad they didn't play him a little bit more. He only played 2 minutes in that game, and that was the only game they had him. I mean, they had him play, and then after his 10-day was up, they just let him go.
Yeah, I mean, you see a lot of guys. I mean, the end of every roster in today's league, it's all rookies. It's all undrafted guys, just throwing them out and seeing if they stick. I mean,
they throw them out there and say, "Go get a bucket."
Yeah.
Even Greg Monroe made a comeback recently. Two teams, Timberwolves and Wizards.
He's been throwing up double-doubles in, like, you know, 20 minutes of play. I mean, he's the stereotypical, like, low-post big. I mean, he never had a three-point shot or anything. But he stayed in shape and he was ready, and, you know, he's not a bad guy to have on the end of your bench.
And Greg Monroe was super good in K14. I think he was like an 80 or 79.
Okay, Greg Monroe was dominant. And Greg Monroe and Larry Sanders, when they were both on the Bucks, I want to say it was in the late 2000s, or was it like 2K11 or something like that?
Would have been 2K16.
Greg Monroe and Larry Sanders?
Yeah, Greg Monroe didn't play for the Bucks until 2015-16. Yeah.
Oh, no, it was a drafted season. It was the draft. We did a drafted season, and Greg Monroe and Larry Sanders were on the same team, and they were absolutely dominant. It was crazy.
Yeah, Larry Sanders had a little stint on the Cavs in like 2017 when he was trying to come back after some mental health issues, and he had a nice little peek on Milwaukee there for a while though.
Yeah, he was really talked about really highly. Why his ratings were so good.
Mm-hmm.
Derek, any final questions?
No, thank you so much, guys, for coming on to the show. You said you're fans of the NLSC. We're actually big fans of you. We've talked about you guys a few times. I think you're everything right with basketball gaming and gaming in general, just the way you guys experience the games and what you hold to heart and what you find valuable about basketball gaming and those experiences and whatnot. So we hope that you can continue on Instagram and posting the NBA Live 2001 highlights, and we want to keep seeing your submissions for the top 10 as well, because I love editing them and putting them in the top 10. But thanks for all you do, and we look forward to more content.
Yeah, thanks for having us on. We definitely would like to revisit you guys in the future and try to keep up the video games for sure and the highlights. And thanks again.
Yeah, after 20 years, I don't think it's going to stop anytime soon. So we'll keep it coming.
I can relate to that. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we appreciate you guys.
No, thanks for coming on.
All right, no problem.
Thank you.
So yeah, thank you once again to Nate and Roger for joining us on the show. A lot of fun, Derek.
No, that was great. I love the way they play the games. I'm interested in the games they play as well, and I think that they would be great future guests as well if we wanted to have them on again. I hope they continue their highlights on Instagram as well as their submissions for the top 10.
And once again, make sure you're following them on Instagram. NBA Live 2001 Highlights is their handle, and also search up NBA Live 2001. That's the name of their channel on YouTube as well. But yes, that has brought us to the end of episode number 411 of the NLSC podcast. We thank you for joining us. We hope you enjoyed it. The podcast comes out every Sunday on the NLSC, which is nba-live.com, of course. We're also on all the major podcatching apps and platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Podcast Addict, just to name a few. You can also tune in to the show on our YouTube channel. As long as you're tuning in each and every week and enjoying the show, that is the main thing. And of course, you can also connect with us on social media. So Derek, what are your handles and any other final words you have this week?
Thanks for listening to the NLSC podcast again. Keep those highlights coming for the NLSC top 10 plays of the week. You can find me on Twitter at D4384 or at D43G. I am on the NLSC as a team member, D43, and my YouTube is D43.
As I said at the top of the show, I am Andrew in the forum and Andrew NLSC on Twitter. The NLSC is on Twitter and Facebook at the NLSC. On Instagram, we are NLSC Basketball. Our YouTube is NBA Live Series Center. And of course, keep it locked to the NLSC itself, nba-live.com, for everything we do for basketball video games. But yes, that's all for this week, so thank you once again for tuning in. Until next time, I'm Andrew.
And I'm Derek.
Go get buckets, everyone.